Have you ever seen a cat swishing its tail and thought, "Aw, they're so happy to see me"? If so, you're not alone. But you might be walking right into a trap. Today, we are decoding the feline pendulum of emotion.
You walk into an examination room or a living room and find a cat sitting perfectly still. They aren't hissing, they aren't growling. To the untrained human eye, a motionless, completely silent animal is a calm, compliant animal. Relying on that assumption, you reach out to pet them, and instantly the silence shatters. A blur of claws and teeth connects with your hand. To understand why that happens, we have to look at the feline operating system. Cats evolved as mesopredators, meaning they hunt small prey, but are also hunted by larger carnivores. Because of this duality, they operate under the energy conservation theory. Sudden violence requires a massive metabolic cost and carries a high risk of injury. A biological machine honed for survival does not waste precious calories on a fight if it can be avoided. 10,000 years of living alongside humans hasn't overwritten this ancient programming. When trapped in a highly stressful environment, a cat's primary survival strategy is to minimize its footprint. It suppresses overt warnings like hissing or swatting to remain virtually invisible to predators. Instead of shouting, the cat relies on a microscopic language of low-cost, millimeter-wide physical signals. From the cat's perspective, the attack that injured your hand was the physical conclusion to a long, one-sided negotiation. To prevent these injuries and reduce extreme stress in our feline patients, we have to stop waiting for the macro explosions. We need to rewind the tape, zoom in, and decode the subtle microsignals of fear. The most common translation error humans make is projecting canine behavior onto feline anatomy. In a dog, a moving tail often signals affiliation. In a cat, a moving tail is a pendulum of conflict, calculation, and potential kinetic energy.
A cat's tail is a direct extension of its spine, made of tiny vertebrae and wrapped in muscles, wired to the brain's emotional center. A cat's tail reveals its tension through height, speed, and volume.
This behavioral diagram illustrates the spectrum of tail movement. Focus strictly on panel C. The warning begins with a subtle tip twitch, a movement isolated to the last 2 inches of the tail, signaling mild irritation. If ignored, the movement recruits the entire appendage, resulting in a high-amplitude lashing trajectory. This rigid posture confirms a state of high agitation. Moving up to the cranial radar system, this anatomical heat map reveals the hidden biological machinery of the feline ear. This lets them triangulate the exact location of auditory threats without ever moving their head. This facial expression chart maps how those ears indicate escalating danger. Notice the transition from the yellow zone to the red zone. The yellow zone shows lateral rotation, often called airplane ears, indicating cognitive dissonance and rising anxiety. The red zone shows caudal flattening, where the pinnae are pulled completely backward and pressed flat against the skull. This is a physiological reflex to protect delicate ear cartilage during combat. Still looking at the red zone, follow the vector arrows on the whiskers. This is whisker retraction. The muscles of the muzzle contract tightly, bunching the sensitive vibraceae flat against the face to streamline the profile and protect them from damage. When you observe a thumping tail, combined with flat, pinned ears and tightly retracted whiskers, you are looking at a localized biological countdown. The cat has exhausted every low-cost warning available. A physical strike is imminent. The eyes offer a deeper look into the animal's internal state. This illustration compares a relaxed, soft almond-shaped eye on the left with a highly stressed eye on the right. Notice the massive, round pupil. This is emotional mydriasis. It happens when the sympathetic nervous system takes over, forcibly dilating the pupil to flood the retina with visual data to detect threats. Pay close attention to the specific details labeled in the stressed eye. The hard orbital tension pulls the eyelids back to reveal the white sclera, a phenomenon known as whale eye. You may also see pupillary hippus, a spasmodic, rhythmic pulsing of the pupil size. These specific markers show a brain short-circuiting, rapidly switching between the urge to fight, flee, or freeze. These ocular changes are part of a broader category known as autonomic leaks. Unlike a growl, which a cat can consciously suppress to stay hidden, leaks are involuntary, reflexive physiological changes driven by a massive adrenaline dump.
This y-axis shows a cat's confidence. A tail straight up like a flagpole shows a friendly, confident cat. If it quivers, that's high excitement. The question mark tail is a green light for interaction.
The cat is physically incapable of hiding them. One of the most telling leaks occurs on the examination table itself. As adrenaline surges, the sweat glands on the cat's digital foot pads activate. When a seemingly frozen, silent cat lifts its paw to reveal a damp footprint, a phenomenon called pause printing, it leaves physical evidence of hidden panic. The unprovoked cat is reacting to an invisible adrenaline flood, responding to a perceived threat with a biological imperative to survive. Let's replay that opening scenario. You walk into the room and see the silent cat, but this time you pause. You spot the rapid tip twitch of the tail. You notice the dilated, saucer-like pupils. Instead of reaching out and breaching their space, you halt your approach.
The tip twitch is your flashing yellow light. Stop and give the cat time to calm down. If the irritation grows, the tail becomes a lash. A wide wag in a cat means get away from me right now.
You lower your hands and perform a slow blink, a deliberate, prolonged closing and opening of your eyelids. In the feline lexicon, a hard, fixed stare precedes an attack. By voluntarily breaking that stare and obscuring your own vision, you speak directly to the cat's threat detection circuitry, signaling that you are not a predator. As the cat returns the slow blink, the biological tide turns. The parasympathetic nervous system, the network responsible for rest and recovery, engages. The rigid, hypertonic muscles begin to literally yield to gravity. This anatomical study of resting postures shows exactly what that yielding looks like. Panel B demonstrates the Sphinx posture. The forelimbs are extended and loaded with kinetic energy, ready to bolt. But as comfort sets in, the cat transitions to the Loaf posture, shown in Panel A. By completely tucking the carpus beneath the sternum, the cat deliberately surrenders its ability to flee quickly. It is a profound mechanical display of trust. Finally, returning to our tail behavioral chart, look closely at Panel A. When a cat raises a vertical tail with the distal third curled forward, it creates the question mark tail. This is the ultimate affiliative microsignal. The cat is actively granting you permission to interact. Fluency in this silent language replaces human assumptions with empirical data. It gives a voice to a solitary survivor, establishing the baseline for mutual trust.
When a cat is terrified, their hair stands straight up, creating a bottle brush tail to look intimidating. This is the classic Halloween cat. But there's an opposite reaction to extreme fear: immediately shut down. If you force an interaction, they may explode into a bite without warning. The feline tail is a precision instrument, constantly broadcasting the cat's emotional state. When we learn to read this pendulum of emotion, we realize cats are talking to us. Pay attention to their tail and build a deeper bond with your cat.